Welcome back to the Virtuoso tutorial series. In this final lesson, we are going to dive a little deeper into interaction areas, and in particular what we call advanced interaction areas, to show how the system can be expanded to support a wider variety of interaction types. If we take a look at the CO2 scrubber box's reactor, we can see all of the events produced by an interaction area. These events are object entered interaction area, object exited interaction area, object used interaction area, object finished interaction area, and object interrupt interaction area. These first three events are triggered by interactable objects in an interaction area and are pretty self-explanatory. These other two, object finished and object interrupt, aren't actually used by the base interaction area. However, programmers can extend the interaction area script to create new interaction areas with specific conditions to trigger these events. Let's start setting up our channel interaction area. Start by creating an empty object and name it welding area. The exact position doesn't matter, so I'm just going to copy the position from the CO2 scrubber box. Next, let's add the channel interaction area to the welding area object. While we're here, let's also set up a policy list for the welder. So as a reminder, we take the policy list and drag it into the corresponding field on the channel interaction area. Set the type to include and set the element value to welder. Then we go over to the welder, add a new tag called welder. Go back to the welder again and set the tag to welder. Next, let's check the enforce order box and set up the line renderer info. In the sample files, there is an object called welding line renderer settings. Just use that. Next, let's set up the line renderer info. If you click this little dot and then click welding line renderer settings, that will work just fine. Let's set the path radius to 0.25 so it's a little more forgiving. Next, we need to create the nodes that make up this channel interaction area. Start by creating a sphere underneath the welding area. Scale it down to 0.1 in each direction. Next, set isTrigger to true on the sphere collider and add an interaction area component. We don't need to worry about a policy list for this interaction area, as it's controlled by the welding area policy list. Finally, let's grab the sphere and drag it up to the top left corner of the box that we'll be welding shut. You'll want it to be poking out of the surface a little bit so that it's easy to get to. Let's go ahead and rename this sphere so it's a little more clear what it is. I'm going to call it welding node. So now let's create a few more of these. The fastest way to do that is by pressing Ctrl D. You could also do Ctrl C, Ctrl V, or copy and paste as desired. Drag each one to each of the corners on the welding area. We're almost done with this interaction. Let's set up a reactor and a reaction to finish off the event. So first, we'll add the reactor, drag the channel interaction area into the component field. Next, add a unity event reaction. Let's expand the object finished interaction. Click the button to add a reaction to it and drag in this one. Finally, click the plus sign, expand the CO2 scrubber box, and drag this steel plate object into this field. Then, go to Game Object, Set Active to True. Let's enter Play Mode and check out this interaction. Trace along each of the points as they appear. Once you've traced to the fourth point, the steel plate should appear. So now that we know the interaction works, let's clean things up a little bit. First, let's hide these spheres by disabling the mesh renderers. They're useful for testing, but we don't really need them anymore. Next on our cleanup list, let's disable the interaction area once we're done with the reaction. That way the line renderer only appears when it's useful. Now that we've cleaned up the welder a little bit, let's run through the whole system and review what we've created in this tutorial series. First, our astronaut in training can grab the filter and move it around, and ultimately place it inside the filter control box. Next, they can grab the welder and trace along the edge of the box to weld a steel plate into place. We hope you've enjoyed this tutorial series and have learned something new about how to use Virtuoso. Please check out our GitHub wiki for more tutorials and content.